and welcome back to the studio. Some of you might be familiar with this painting and some of you probably won't if you haven't seen the previous video. But what we're going to do is show you how to varnish it. So in general we have a satin varnish or a gloss varnish. So we're going to use polymer gloss varnish today and just showing you a few important things because varnishing can be pretty boring, but it's actually very important. So let's not make it boring, let's make it important. We've wet our brush just so it's moist, and I've got some varnish just here on a plate. So the most important thing is, because this was a triptych, we're going to work on them one at a time. So just varnish one painting at a time. And we're going to start in one corner and follow the form of that painting, which means that we don't do this. So sometimes it's better if I show you what not to do, because we're not painting a wall, okay? We are varnishing a painting. And if we were to complete the whole painting like this, the light would refract against those little brush marks and you will actually see those lines through it. So what we want to do is actually follow the shape or the form of the brush strokes underneath. It's very important. So it takes a little bit of time, not a huge amount, but it's not a haphazard process. Now the other important thing is that we work a wet edge to a wet edge. So always work up to that edge that's wet. Don't play over here, then a bit here. We need to make sure that we have that whole surface covered from one end to the other. So we need to follow the form of the object, work wet edge to wet edge. And put it in a thin layer. We don't want it very heavy. If you want a second layer, you can do that after this is dried. And let it dry sufficiently. Don't get over eager. Do it the next day. That means tomorrow. So as we come through, these broader areas can be in bigger strokes. But the tree, notice that we follow the form of the object, much the way the paint was applied in the original painting. So follow the shapes and contours of those brush strokes that are underneath. That way you won't run into danger. May sound fairly simple, but it's an important little thing. So again, as these are bigger hills and bigger areas, we can now speed it up a bit. But again, we're still following those brush strokes that were in the original painting. Because if we don't, they will show. And it just becomes a little confusing to the viewer. Alright, now even skies have form, so don't get lazy when we get to the sky. So don't all of a sudden go, oh well, it's just blue, it's just blue. It's not just blue, it's a sky. So we need to still follow the shapes of those strokes. Now in this area, those strokes are going every which way. In here, they're more directional. And for those of you who were watching the video of this will remember that we put lots of colours into this sky. There's a bit of red in it through here, there's a bit of green in it through here. So although it appears plain blue, it's not. So we need to accentuate those colours by running these the same way as those original strokes. And again with the cloud, paint the cloud in. So essentially we're painting the whole painting again, but much quicker. Alright, so there's one done. Let's go ahead and do the other two. So we're just coming up to the last little touches of this one. And that is a little bit tricky here because this sky has lots of patches. So although you're at the end of it and you've gone from one side right the way through to the other, don't get lazy. Make sure you follow it, all right? It's really important. So wet edge to wet edge. And there you go. So let that dry off, have a look at it. If you think it needs another coat, just start that process again. No more than 2 usually, and definitely no more than 3. Enjoy the practice of that. So just make sure again that we're adding a little bit of water, just a damp brush into the mix, and follow the brush strokes, follow the form of what's underneath, and enjoy the process. Happy painting.